Today I'd like to speak to you about the Ten Commandments, and more specifically the problems related to the Ten Commandments. Yes, those commandments. The ones that most people know two or three about, and then it pretty much disappears. Most people know thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not covet, thou shalt not steal, something about idols. Other than that, they're not sure. Let's take a closer look at exactly what happens. Alright, so as the story goes, Moses is busy leading his people through the desert. As they're wandering, they're becoming more unruly, more ungovernable, and God decides he needs to intervene. He calls Moses and says, I'm going to give you a set of instructions, a set of laws, a set of commandments that must be passed on to these people to obey. Now Moses stops at a mountain. And this is where the first problem comes in. In Exodus 20, it is mentioned to be Mount Sinai, but in Deuteronomy 5, it is Mount Horeb. It is difficult because nobody knows where this discrepancy comes from. Was it Mount Sinai? Was it Mount Horeb? The biblical scholars have put forward three explanations possibly for this one. The first one is that the mountain had one face called one name and another face called another name. The other one was that it was two peaks of the same mountain having different names. And the third one was that it was actually different mountains. Nobody knows for sure, but this is a problem that needs to be resolved. You would think that an all-knowing God, knowing where he led his Israelites and Moses to, would be able to tell us simply in his book where they went. Why the two different names? Why the two different variations? If it's God's word and God knows, he should tell us. Clear up the misunderstanding. After all, 1 Corinthians 14 verse 33 tells us that God is not the author of confusion. But I beg to differ. Anyway, so back to the story. Now Moses is standing at the foot of the mountain and God speaks to Moses separate from the rest of the Israelites, and he tells him the Ten Commandments. Alright, so these are the Ten Commandments God gives Moses, verbally at first. And I'm paraphrasing here. The first one is, you can have no other gods before me. Second one, you should make no graven images. Third one, not take the name of the Lord in vain. The fourth one, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. The fifth one, honor thy father and thy mother. The sixth one, thou shalt not kill. The seventh one, thou shalt not commit adultery. Eighth one, thou shalt not steal. Ninth one, thou shalt not bear false witness. And 10th one, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's home, thy neighbor's wife, their manservant, their maidservant, thy neighbor's ox, or thy neighbor's ass. Now Moses climbs all the way up the mountain, and he receives the tablets that God made, stone tablets with these 10 commandments on them. God must have realized Moses wouldn't remember them all, or he'd make a mess of it, and God wanted to get it in writing. So he puts these things on the stone tablets and gives them to Moses at the top of the mountain. Moses now takes a long walk back down to the bottom again. Moses must have spent a long time on the mountain, because in the meanwhile, the people at the bottom started getting a bit restless. They were starting to wonder, is Moses coming back? Is this God really taking them anywhere? They've already spent ages in the desert. So they turn to Aaron and they say to him, will you lead us further? And we obviously need a different God because this one's not producing. So Aaron tells the people to bring all the gold necklaces, jewelry, rings. He melts them all down and makes a golden calf. And this golden calf they're supposed to worship, and it'll take them further into the promised land. Moses gets down to the bottom of the hill carrying these two stone tablets. He sees what the Israelites have done and he loses it. He can't believe what these people have done, and he smashes his tablets. You're not worthy of these tablets is what he's thinking. Now God sees that Moses has smashed these tablets, and he says to Moses, don't worry, bring 2 new tablets, blank ones, carry them back up the hill. I will reinscribe exactly the same commandments I gave you the first time. Alright, so God gives Moses a second set of 10 commandments, but these ones are completely different, even though he promised to give the same ones again. And these ones read as follows, and I'm paraphrasing. You should have no covenant with the inhabitants of the land. Second one, God will destroy all pagan worship places. Third one, idolatry is forbidden. Fourth one, keep the feasts of unleavened bread. The fifth one, all firstborn males, both man and beast, belong to God. Sixth one, keep the Sabbath. Seventh, man to appear 3 times a year before God. Eighth one, you may offer no leavened sacrifice or leave the Passover until morning. Ninth one, bring the first fruits of your harvest to the house of the Lord. And 10th one, don't boil a young goat in its mother's milk. Now, most people have never heard of this second set of commandments, and for good reason. They are ridiculous. They make no sense. They are not applicable to life. Now, normally when somebody gives you a second set of instructions, that normally overrides the first set. But you can understand why this didn't happen. What people should find disturbing is that God told Moses he would give him the same set of 10 commandments again, and he didn't. He gave 10 new ones. God lied. The surprising thing is this isn't the first time God lied, and it wasn't the last time either. It happened several times in the Bible. The 10 commandments that are adhered to today, the ones that are promoted by Christianity, the first set, I have a problem with some of them as well. They are inconsistent in many ways, and I'd like to take a look at some of them. The first 3 is all about God and his vanity and jealousy. He behaves like a jealous 16-year-old girlfriend, where he says, it's all about me. I'm the one. You can't make any pictures of me, you can't make any statues of me, and you can't even say my name. And that nonsense uses up 3 of the 10 commandments, 3 of the 10 instructions for mankind. The 4th commandment is, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Now, if you remember to the creation story, the reason why there is a Sabbath is because God needed to take a nap after his long stint at creating, his 6 days of toil. He had to rest, and that's where the Sabbath came from. Ironically, the Sabbath is a Jewish tradition and not applicable to Christianity, which is why it was moved to Sunday when it became the Lord's Day. So observing the Sabbath does not apply to Christianity. Now, God takes this commandment extremely seriously. In Numbers 15 verse 32, it tells the story of a man in the wilderness who was collecting sticks on the Sabbath. He was brought before Moses and Aaron, and they asked God what should be done with this man, and God told them to put him to death. Death for collecting sticks? This proves yet again how God is petty and unjust. The 5th commandment is honor your father and your mother. Now, this would be an honorable commandment, except for one thing again. In Exodus 32, God instructs the fathers to kill their sons and the sons to kill their fathers in a massacre. And then God praises the men, the fathers and the sons, for this action in Exodus 32, where he says, you have been set apart by the Lord today, for you were against your own sons and brothers, and he has blessed you this day. In a side note, Jesus, who is the Son of God and is God, and they can't make up their minds if it's 1 or 2, he says in Matthew 10 verse 35, for I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother. So God made the commandment to honor thy father and thy mother. Then Jesus, who is God, makes the instruction to kill your father and kill your mother. Inconsistent. The 7th commandment is thou shalt not kill. Ordinarily, this would also be a very good instruction, but it's way too simplistic. There are many instances where killing is unavoidable. War, self-defense. And this commandment doesn't specify human. Does do not kill extend to animals? May you kill animals? What about an animal who's about to kill you? Can you kill it in self-defense? The 8th commandment, thou shalt not steal, also very commendable, but very simplistic. There are way too many scenarios it doesn't cover. For example, what happens if you work for the CIA and you find out that the terrorists are about to set off a massive explosion on your home country, and you're in a position to steal the plans? Do you do that? The ninth commandment, thou shalt bear false witness, also too simplistic. But it's the 10th one I want to move on to now. Thou shalt not covet. Coveting is a thought crime. Coveting doesn't do anything. It's a thought that I would like to have what my neighbor has. Now, this is actually a good thing. It makes you, if you see that your neighbor has a new car, a nice car you'd like to have, you might save money to be able to afford it. You might work harder. Stimulates the economy. Where's the problem? You cannot regulate thoughts. You cannot set a commandment against what somebody thinks. Thinking is not wrong. It's acting on those thoughts that are wrong. Once again, I'd like you to think about what we've discussed in this video. Think about the implications and see what conclusions you can draw. As always, thank you for listening, and I look forward to speaking to you again.